Space can be claustrophobic or it can be open-minded, and I think that love can function in a similar way. I hope that the open passageways and narrow pathways that are the journey through this exhibition, and that the art that is integral to it in some way transforms the viewer. It was important at the beginning of this project to think about how we were going to best present the art. What I've tried to do with the exhibition is chart an emotional arc from bodily beginnings of love perhaps to its potentially crushing conclusions. So I've divided the exhibition into 4 broad ideas. The first one is to begin with the flesh, which explores the vexed terrain of the body and desire and includes work by Polly Borland, Angelica Massetti and Paul Knight. The second grouping is called Expressive Abstractions, which looks at solitude and togetherness in the work of Darren Sylvester and David Rosetsky. And the third room is called An Archive of Feeling, which looks at longing and memory in the art of David Noonan, Justine Williams and Eliza Hutchinson. And then the final room, which is almost like the complete dissolution of the self, is called Filthy Crushing Ending, and that is work by Glenn Sloggett, Grant Stevens and Tim Silver. This is the second time that I've worked with Jan van Schaik, who's an architect from Menifee van Schaik Architects in Melbourne.
First met Natasha working on the Adelaide Biennale, Parallel Collisions, last year. While we were doing that, she kept rubbing her hands together going, oh, we've got to work on something, and she sort of booked me in for this mysterious thing. I'm not sure whether she knew exactly what it was, but from that desire to do something together here, this show then arrived. What we really wanted to do was to do something that questioned the modernist box, and working with a collaborator seems like a really good way of having explicit architectural input, but also doing it in such a way that the work can have a space to breathe within its own frame.
The Franco and Amina and family Belgian-Onidas galleries, as they're now called, were built in 1988, but they've never been architecturally reconfigured. Jan and I bring to this project a similar understanding of how we want space to be experienced and how you put art in a space so that it can be understood in different and more complex and perhaps seductive ways.
Natasha had an agenda, which was the show's title. We used to talk about love. And so the task was essentially to take these 4 galleries, each with their 9 coffered ceilings, which are set up in such a way as to deny a journey. It's sort of continuous space. And so the question was, how do we put in a series of walls to actually make a journey through?
What it creates in this transformation are these cathedral-like ceilings that all of a sudden you are quite dwarfed by them, but then because you're making the spaces smaller, you're also brought in closer to the art.
Takes you through a series of compressions and releases. So you're pushed into a corner and open out and go into a dark space and then into a light space and into a very well finished space and then a very unfinished space and then a space that is constantly changing through the period of the show. So that journey encapsulates the roller coaster of love. By changing something that's familiar, you can actually make people see and feel things that they wouldn't otherwise expect to see. So it opens up a territory for new types of understanding and insight.
Before I even started talking to Jan, I had long conversations with artists about their work, what works we were going to put in the exhibition, how best to present them.
A group exhibition of this kind usually takes up to 2 years to develop. In the last year, we've been working really closely with artists to help them realise the projects that they've proposed for the exhibition. In the exhibition, there are 2 new artworks, one from Tim Silver and another one from Justine Williams. When Natasha and I realised that the exposed walls and the installation resembled the videos that Justine had made for us, we contacted Justine and said, would she be interested in keeping the walls in this way, not cladding them and painting them wide? She immediately said yes.
I think artists have always riled against the white cube and they've always wanted to transform it or mess it up.
That could maybe go in a little bit more.
In a sense, this means that the installation becomes very much like an artwork.
Tim Silver's work is a life-size body cast of him, and then he's stuffed the cast with watercolour pigment and then a drop of water will fall on the top of the head of the sculpture, and the sculpture will slowly disintegrate in real time in the exhibition space. And this will be documented by a sequence of photographs that will then go up on the walls. So what we see here is the disintegration of the body, and also it's a statement on how time works in the world and mortality.
Paul Knight is the first artist to arrive for the exhibition, and it's been really exciting to have Paul Knight here in the gallery because in a way he's been here as a kind of artist in residence.
So I guess with this work I kind of like a bit of nostalgia, so I used off film stock for this picture so that you get like a colour shift between.
Does it give it a retro feel?
Yeah, exactly, like to give it sort of like an aged, like photos from the 70s we might.
Yeah. The term photomedia, I'm very much employing it in its broadest and most expanded sense. And what I mean by that is this is an exhibition that not only includes photography, it includes video, sculpture, installation, photo collage, so a suite of different mediums. As a curator working with living artists, I want to always embrace risk and experimentation and to work in new and different ways with artists. And at the forefront of how I work is an artist-driven practice, but I'm also always thinking about the best way that that art's going to engage with an audience.